Hi there. I thought we'd have a little sit down for this one, because this one's going to be a little bit different. But I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait to show you what I've been working on. If you've been with the channel for a little while now, then you've probably noticed that in the last couple weeks, even maybe a couple months, I've been building something. I've been doing some DIY fun, and that's what this video is about today. So obviously I love audio. That's a big part of what this channel is about. I love audio. I love listening to it. I love headphones. I love speakers. I love audio gear. I love just having the gear to make it sound incredible. But not just for listening. I also really love recording audio, and just like listening to audio, I love recording gear. So what I've been working on, what I've been building is this. Get this in frame for you. There you go. This is my new 500 series rack, my new 500 series stack, because my goal was to transform my recording setup for these videos, this microphone right here and what it's all tethered to and chained to. My goal is to transition into a full analog recording setup. And that's what this big black box is going to do for me. It's actually a pretty little black box when you consider the alternative. So yeah, what this is, what I can kind of explain to you, if you don't know what this is, I'm going to give you a brief explanation. These are called 500 series modules. They're developed by API. And 500 series modules are, as you can see, significantly smaller than like your standard studio rack mount kind of gear, which is like on a big honking piece of furniture that's like, I don't know, 3 feet wide, and you got just like big walls of gear. That's all great stuff, but it's not going to work for everyone because not everyone has a giant audio studio, recording studio to do whatever they want to do, whatever nerdy shit they want to do. Likewise, I don't have the room in my little studio here for a huge, giant studio mount of audio recording gear, but I could certainly make space for this, a 500 series format recording setup, and that's what this is. Now, it might look a little strange, and I'll explain, but what we have here are just these two modules. There's room to expand, and we'll talk about that, but we have right here are two modules. We have a preamp right here, which is what I'm going to be using for powering and flavoring my microphone, and then also an EQ, again, for EQing the microphone. The rest of this is empty, it's blank, but I can expand it over time. This is still a work in progress, but it is at a position, at a state now, where I feel I'm ready to transition into it. Right now, what I'm doing right here with this microphone, I have it plugged in into my Universal Audio Vault 276 interface. And that interface is great. It's a great interface. I'll show it here. It's a really wonderful interface. By using it for a number of years, I love it. I think it's quite a bit better than the Scarlett interfaces I have owned in the past. I have loved my Universal Audio Vault. And it has been with that Vault 276 and this Electro Voice RE20 that have been achieving the audio quality that we have had here for a little while now since we got this microphone. And it's been great. I've been really, really happy with it. But like I said, I want to go full analog because I'm a gearhead. I love the actual feeling and tactile nature of using gear instead of just having software to do it. And I do think that there is, as close as software can get, as close as plugins can get to achieving certain kinds of sound, there's just always going to be certain characteristics, certain je ne sais quoi you're going to get from the actual physical modules, the actual physical circuitry of hardware that you just can't always exactly copy and translate from a plugin or from an app or from digital, whatever, anything. So it's completely unnecessary and completely overkill. And I understand that, but it's something I want to do. I'm passionate about this stuff and I'm getting into it. So, okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So the setup that I've been using, I have this Electro Voice RE20 that's wired directly into the interface, the Universal Audio Vault 276. And on that Vault 276, I have two built-in features that are always on for this particular setup. One is the vocal boost. I always have the vocal boost filter enabled. And then the big selling point with the Volt 276 is I have the 73 compressor enabled. And what that is an actual built-in and employed 1176 FET compressor, which is, if you know, you know, but it's a very well-known, very respected compressor in the studio scene. So the Universal Audio 76 has a derived version of that 1176 compressor, FET compressor built into it. And that's what you're hearing now. I'm using that compressor, and I'm using the Volt 276's vocal enhance filter. And it sounds great. This is great. This has served me very well, but it's filters. I don't want to use filters. I want to use hardware. So that's what this is all about. And I'm going to break down exactly what's in this box and kind of the journey I went through in building this, because I'm going to reiterate that I had the opportunity and the pleasure and the joy to make these myself. And that was kind of like a big part of this experience for me, was that these are DIY projects. These are full kits that you can get and literally craft these and build these themselves. You get all the components that you need, and all that you really need to be able to do this, to do these do-it-yourself kits, is just have a couple of tools like a soldering iron and some soldering skill, like basic level soldering skill. This is nothing super intense, nothing super complicated or super like skill and tech savvy. If you just have a little bit of skill, or if you don't already have it, you just, learn it really quick. It's not hard to learn. This is not hard to do, but it sure is fun. If you like to build things, I love building things, and building this was an absolute joy. So let me break that down and how that kind of all worked out for me. So these DIY kits I got from DIY.RE, or also known as DIY recording equipment. I have a website in the description below if you're interested in trying this out for yourself, but they're great. They're absolutely fantastic. Like I said, when you buy the kit, I'll have a link to the 73 preamp as well as the EQ P5. But when you get your kit, it comes with everything. You get every component. It's all separated. Nothing's put together. You just have the individual components ready for you to build yourself. And that's a big part of the fun. If you so choose, you can buy these pre-built. You could do that. But one, you're going to miss out on the fun of building it yourself. And even if it is a really simple thing, you have a certain level of pride in building it yourself, I think. I'm pretty freaking happy with myself that I was able to build this and it sounds as good as it freaking does. And we'll talk about sound a little bit. But if you don't want to bother with that, sure, you could buy these pre-built as well. But on top of being able to have the joy of building yourself, if you do the build it yourself, the do it yourself kits, you're also going to save a lot of money. You can get these for about like half the price. I think it was pretty close to it if you do the DIY kit versus the pre-builds. In order to do these kits, you just need some basic tools. For me, I had a soldering gun, I had my helping hands, and then I had, of course, my solder and some clippers for clipping, clipping off solder trims, and also for clipping wire. So basic tools. I'll make a list of the tools that I used if you're interested. It'll also be in the description. But it's basic tools. There's a good chance you might already have stuff like this, if not exactly this. And other than that, just developing a little bit of skill to do soldering. Soldering's not hard. It seems really intimidating. I'm going to show some pictures, and on these pictures, some of this might look a little intimidating for you if you've never done this before. But I can assure you, it's really easy to do. It's not difficult, and it's fun. Once you kind of figure it out and you get a feel for it, it becomes really fun to do. And I can't stress enough how kind of simple this is. It's just a matter of trying it, learning how to do it correctly, and double checking your work, making sure that you're just go online and look up proper soldering technique, and you're going to find a whole bunch of information of how to do this correctly. You'll be able to see visual cues of what works, that you're doing things right and that you're doing things wrong. And it's not difficult to fix. If you do something wrong, if you say, do a solder that's too cold, you're going to know that. You're going to see what solder looks like when it's too cold, when it's not, completely soldered into the bit there. And you're going to be able to fix that. It's not a big deal. What I will say, though, give you a little bit of advice here. When I first started on this build, my soldering iron that I had was the same soldering iron that I had when I built my Swan speakers years ago. And it's a fine soldering iron, but it didn't have any way of visually showing me what my exact temperatures were. I just have kind of like this gradient. I'll show a picture of it here, just a gradient, yellow to red, like you're cool or you're really, really hot, and you don't know. You have no clue what your actual soldering temperature is. And when you're dealing with really small components like you're going to be dealing with in these kits, it helps a ton if you have a soldering iron that gives you exact temperature readings. So I actually, kind of like 1/3 way through building the preamp, I got rid of my old soldering iron and I bought myself a new one that has an actual gauge on it, an actual degree temperature dial on it that showed me what my exact temperatures were. So that way I wasn't worried about doing things too hot, which is what was kind of happening to me at the beginning of my build. When I was first building this preamp, I was doing things a bit too hot. My soldering was a bit too hot. I wasn't frying the board, thank goodness, but things were getting a little spicy. So switching over to a better soldering iron that gave me actual accurate temperature readings made a huge difference for me. So I really want to suggest that for you. That helped me a lot. I just think getting yourself a good quality soldering iron is going to make this process so much easier. My other bit of advice is to follow the directions carefully. Don't jump ahead. I had a situation when building the preamp where I was kind of getting the flow of it. Like I got what I was supposed to be doing. And I kind of stopped reading the directions a little bit. Just like, okay, I know I got to put in all these resistors and all these capacitors and then bend the leads and solder them. No big deal. And I just started doing it. And had I read the instructions properly, I would have saw that there was a little bit of more nuance in there. Some of the components you didn't want to solder directly on the board. You want to give them a little bit of elevation. So that way there's some kind of airflow for them because they get hot. I didn't pay attention to my instructions properly, and I ended up soldering it directly to the board. Fortunately, it was not a big deal. That particular component's going to be fine, but it could have been just that much better had I paid more attention to the instructions. So follow the instructions carefully, read them fully before you start actually permanently soldering things, and you're going to be just fine and learn from my mistake. And then the other thing I want to say here, and again, this is not a sponsored video. I'm not being sponsored by DIY.RE here, but I cannot stress enough the absolutely incredible customer service that they had. I had during this build, I hit a couple speed bumps where I just got a little bit confused or things weren't working exactly the way that it seemed like they should, especially when following the directions. So I would just reach out to them. They have an email for support. And they respond like that immediately. And I had the same guy working with me throughout this entire build. And he was so patient. He was so kind. I felt like a freaking idiot sometimes, but he was always just really nice and understanding. And he was very, very thorough in helping me troubleshoot whatever I was going through. Incredible customer service, incredible support. Like I've never really had support to this level. Like it's such a personal one-to-one connection between you and DIY. It's really phenomenal support. I can't stress enough. They did an amazing job. Oh my gosh. And these kits, when you get them, everything is so nicely organized. I don't think I have any pictures of this, and this is a shame, but the components are broken out into these little bags, and each bag is labeled based on the chapter of the instructions that you are going through. So bag 1.1 is for chapter 1, part 1. Bag 1.2 is for chapter 1, part 2. So the components are broken into small groups in baggies, and you were able to literally do it step by step, following the instructions. It could not be more simple. It's great. And they offer all these different kind of tools to help you not just follow the directions and do what you're told, but also understand why things are happening the way that they are, why you're installing what you're installing, and how to measure what you are installing. That doesn't make probably much sense to you right now, but it will when you're following the directions, like being able to understand the resistors and how to find the tolerance for those resistors. It's really, really neat. It's just fun to figure it out. And to get this deeper understanding of how this stuff works is always really, really cool. And what's really neat about these particular modules that I built from DIY.RE is that they are authentic and complete adaptations of classic gear, real gear that is just like legendary in the studio sphere. If you know what Neve is, the 73P is essentially a Neve 1073. And I'm going to break this down to you and like how all this kind of came together and why that's such a great, authentic interpretation, not even interpretation, an adaptation of that classic legendary Neve 1073 into the 500 series form factor. It's amazing. So now I'm going to go ahead and just show you the modules themselves and break it down a little bit further for you. Here is the first module in the kit that I have been building. This is the 73P Class A mic preamp. And it's a freaking cool little kit. Look at this. This is super rad. So the 73P here is an authentic and complete adaptation of the legendary Neve 1073 in a 500 series form factor. And it's authentic because all of the components that you are given for the kit, all these little bits and pieces and doodads, and oh my goodness, every little piece is hand selected to match the original's components. So it's all the same components that you see in a Neve 1073, but mounted into a PCB for a 500 series form factor. And there's absolutely no changes to the circuitry, and it also adheres to the original's 3-stage amplifier design. Some key features are that it has a 3-stage 1290 preamp, a 12-position Gray Hill switch, which is thick and chunky and clicky, feels great to use. There is a line mode, which turns it into a line level processor, a low Z mode, which switches the input impedance between 1.2K and 300 ohms. We have a trim knob so that you can drive the preamp like super hard without having to worry about it clipping whatever is next in the audio chain. It has WEMA and tantalum capacitors in the signal path, Carnhill input and output transformers. It also has a DI input, and when an instrument is plugged in, the mic line input is automatically disabled. Onboard regulators set the power voltage to plus 24 just like the original Neve unit, and of course it is fully compatible with the 500 series format. The second unit is the EQ P5 passive equalizer. It's a tone shaping EQ based on the Pultec EQP. It employs the same passive filter circuitry as the Pultec EQP series and comes in available with either the just modern or modern and vintage outputs. The modern output, which is kind of the standard one, is clean and balanced, while the vintage is a livelier and more dynamic kind of sound. And the vintage output employs an API-style discrete op-amp and custom transformer. The op-amp I have here is the Red 25 op-amp, which is based on the Huntington-era AP2520 from API. And this is its own kit as well that you can kind of add on as a bonus mod. This is kind of a mod for this unit, but they offer this on the store as well, and you get to build the op-amp too. So really freaking cool stuff. Taking a look at the front panel, we have stepped controls, 21 positions for easy recall and stereo operation, anodized aluminum knobs and front panel, push button frequency select switches for each band, Q adjustment via PCB trim pot, and of course it is fully compatible once again with the 500 series format. All right, so there's your breakdown of the individual modules. And now let's talk a little bit about what I put them all into. This chassis is the Fredenstein Bento 6S. It's a 6-slot chassis for 500 series modules. I went with the 6-slot model. There are, I think there's a 4-slot and there's also an 8-slot, and you can go even bigger and bigger if you want to. I went with the 6-slot because I do plan to add more to this. I just have the 2 modules right now. But the next bit of gear I'm getting ready to, I'm kind of budgeting for, I'm saving up the budget for. I'm going to get myself a compressor so I don't have to rely on the built-in compressor on the Volt at all anymore. I can just have a new awesome compressor in here that I can manually, physically adjust. And then I'm going to do some other fun stuff. I might have a whole other like 3-piece kit of another different kind of preamp, different EQ, different compressor, or maybe I'll do something like a synthesizer on here. Whatever, I'll do some fun stuff. That's like future planning, whatever. The point is I have kind of designed this to be a project I can keep working on and keep having fun with. And as long as I can, I'm going to try and find DIY kits to do this stuff. There is a DIY kit for the compressor I'm planning on. I'll see if we get there, but I got, just do more research, figure out what I really want to do, because these little modules, man, they can make huge changes, and you got to learn what those characteristics are, what kind of characteristics you are looking for in your recording, and then slot it in here. And that's another thing that's cool about this whole system, is that the 500 series modules are hot swappable. I could pop these guys out and pop in something else. No big deal. It's not permanently attached to this chassis. It's literally, you just pull it out, you pop it back in. So some other features about the Bento 6S here. It's a 500 series chassis with 6 slots. It has onboard audio routing, compressor bus linking, auxiliary audio inputs and outputs. It has a ground lift switch, multi-layer backplate. It has module power for plus 16 volts DC 1.6 amps or plus 48 volts DC 0.15 amps, and a universal power supply that accepts voltages from 90 volts to 240 volts AC, 50 to 60 hertz. Okay, now for the fun bit. We're going to go ahead and do a little sound test here, a comparison so that we can see the difference between my original setup of the RE20 microphone going into my Vault 276 interface and then right into my PC versus the RE20 going into the Pulsar analog audio box into my interface and PC that way. So what I'm going to do here to kind of do our little vocal test, I'm going to read the opening dialogue of Soul Reaver, one of my favorite games and an absolutely cinematic storytelling masterpiece. Here we go. Okay, so what I have done is I have the microphone right here, so it's a little off center so I'm not getting plosives as much. And also I've turned off all noise cancellation, all filtering. This is all just raw audio in this room with whatever noise is in here is what you're going to hear. So once again, this is the RE20 microphone connected directly into the Universal Audio Vault 276 interface. And I have the vocal enhancer and the 76 compressor enabled on the Vault interface. And here we go. Cain is deified. The clans tell tales of him. Few know the truth. He was immortal once, as were we all. However, his contempt for humanity drove him to create me and my brethren. I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants. I stood with Cain and my brethren at the dawn of the Empire. I have served him a millennium. Over time, we became less human and more divine. Cain would enter the state of change and emerge with a new gift. Some years after the Master, our evolution would follow, until I had the honor of surpassing my Lord. For my transgression, I earned a new kind of reward. Agony. There was only one possible outcome, my eternal damnation. I, Raziel, was to suffer the fate of traitors and weaklings, to burn forever in the bowels of the lake of the dead. Cast him in! Tumbling, burning with white-hot fire, I plunged into the depths of the abyss. Unspeakable pain, relentless agony. Time ceased to exist. Only this torture and a deepening hatred for the hypocrisy that damned me to this hell. An eternity passed, and my torment receded, bringing me back from the precipice of madness. The descent had destroyed me, and yet I lived. Okay, and there we have it. I went ahead and put the noise filter back on so you don't have to hear all that obnoxious background noise. So yeah, this is the new audio recording setup. We have the RE20 going directly into the Pulsar 500 series analog audio box, and then that is going into the Universal Audio Vault 276 interface, and it's connected to it via TRS as opposed to XLR. And what that does is it completely bypasses the Universal Audio's preamp in there, so I'm not having any kind of conflict. And also it kind of bypasses the filtering as well. So it just basically, you're only hearing the box right now, the Pulsar box, and you're not hearing the interface at all. It's just giving the signal to the PC. But yeah, this is what it sounds like now, and I think it sounds fantastic. Again, you're going to have to, have headphones to really probably hear a difference here. I think it sounds fabulous. I'm so happy. I think it's great. And what I love about it is I have like, it just sounds a lot more natural. It sounds a lot more what my voice sounds like to me, like from my own ears, if that makes any sense. It feels a lot more realistic, a lot more true to life. I have a little bit extra kind of, I don't know, fluttering at the low end, which I know my voice just kind of has. I can feel it here. And it just sounds great. It sounds amazing. And I have this extra kind of airiness too, which I really like. It sounds like it's a bit more kind of spacious, and it just, the texture in there is so gritty and lovely. I don't know if it's the like vintage stuff I was doing with the vintage mod, or if it's just the flavoring and natural tonality of the 73p that's helping with that. But I love it. I love it. And of course, I've done some little bit of EQ here and there. I'm not going to bother going over the entire setup because it's like there's so many variables. It could just take us forever to go over every single possible setting. But this is the setting that I've tweaked already and decided this is what I like. This is the sound I like. This is what I'm going to try and stick with. So yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. And again, I feel so, it's so cool that it's something that I can say I made myself. Yeah, it was super easy and the instructions were incredible, and DIY.RE did a phenomenal job making those kits. Those kits are incredible, but it still feels good. It feels good to know that it sounds like this and it's something I made myself. I'm thrilled by this. I think this is fantastic. And I want to give a big shout out here to another YouTube channel, the Time Preservation Society. Go check them out, because the Time Preservation Society is what inspired this entire project. This dude is incredible. He is amazing. He's been an audio recordist for decades and decades and has worked with some of the biggest bands on the planet. He's amazing, and he's also absolutely charming and makes incredible content. Incredible content. I highly encourage people to go check him out if you have any interest in recording, because he's a phenomenal recordist. Phenomenal. He's a great storyteller too, and a great musician. He's just an incredible dude. And I aspire to have the level of recording quality that he has. Like, he's my benchmark. I want to get to his level. I don't know if I ever will, but yeah, Time Preservation Society, go check them out. The dude's amazing. I love him. And yeah, this was a blast. I had a blast with this. And I hope that even if you're maybe not hearing a significant difference, I hope that you still think the audio sounds good. That's I guess the bottom line. As long as the audio sounds good for you, then I am happy. So that's about it. I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.